So this is the helpful, quick tutorial on how to use some free software to do the WSU Organic Farm Plan project. This is the set of software that's being used or that will be utilized in making this farm plan. And so let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is we need to get an image. Ideally, you'll use a satellite image that has, it's real clear, but if you have some other overhead photos or something that's useful, or even a hand-drawn picture that you can scan and put in, it's all going to be usable. We're going to go ahead and use Google Earth, and we're going to zoom in to, I had it set up, but we will put the organic farm in Pullman. Oh, I was a little bit off. And here we are. And we're home. So we'll get rid of the marker, and we want the view as flat as possible. So under View, Reset, and Tilt, we'll get a nice flattened image. We'll drag it so we get the things in the picture we want. And we're going to go ahead and say File, Save the image. And I've already got this image as a farm overhead. So you then click Save, and that's the image we'll work with. And at that point, you're done with Google Earth. One thing to note is the direction of the north arrow, which we'll see in Inkscape, which is our graphics program where most of this will be happening. And we have layer 1. Your layout when you open Inkscape for the first time, your canvas may look a little bit different, which is no big deal. It's all adjustable. But in layer 1, we want to import the image that we just got, farm overhead. And we bring that into Inkscape, and it's really big and doesn't fit. So let's bring this over here, and the first thing we want to do, again, note the north arrow because we want to add one for the orientation, and we want to get rid of all the Google specific information. So we're going to crop, and to crop we use the rectangle tool. We have, we're in layer 1, and we just draw this little rectangle here. Adjust it by dragging the corner, where you might want it. This is all going to be kind of hypothetical, just to get an idea for the software. If you like the idea of rounded corners, you can round the corners. That's kind of cool. So then we get our selection tool to crop this, and we select both of them. So we notice if we click out here, nothing. Click on the line, we select the rectangle, and then I hold Shift and I select the picture. Now they're both selected. We go up to Object, Clip, and Set, and now we have our farm layout chosen and cut out of there. So Document Properties will allow us to adjust the canvas to fit what we have. This is a good time to save. I already have this saved as base map, and so I'm going to save that work. And okay, back to it. We have our base map on layer 1, and now at this point it's a good idea to add some layers. They don't have to have specific names right now. It is a good idea to keep track of them one way or another. Names are the easiest. Layer 1, where we're at right here, we'll go ahead and rename it to base map, and we'll lock it. And when it locks, we can't do anything to this. We like this. It's not changeable. We can always unlock it to make any changes should we need to, but we can put everything else on another layer. Each one of these is essentially a layer of tracing paper, completely transparent, a place you can put stuff on top of the current picture. So what we're going to do next is the border of our farm, and we're going to use the bezier tool, this strange looking pen right here, and we're going to just make up a border around the farm. Again, we're modifying without regard to actual boundaries. We're modifying our overhead picture. Now at the end of your clicking, you'll click at each point where you want to follow around, and at the end here it's either a double click with the left button or a right click, and that finishes off a polygon that we could fill. We can do that later with some of the fields and mess with those to get a nice layout, but right now this is the layout we're going to use. And you notice I've cut this right out of here. To change this, we select one of these. This is the edit paths by node. So if you do screw up, you can adjust it, and so we'll have a strange little curve in our border here. Take it out there, and now we're a little better. We got a curve. Now there's no right or wrong, so just show you some of the other tools. To make that stroke stand out a little more and be a little bolder border, we adjust the color. There's all kinds of selections. The RGB is some of the easiest. The style will go ahead and let you thicken up the border a bit so it stands out. And that is essentially the border layer. So we save that. We like the border, so we'll go ahead and call it border now. Hit enter, and we'll lock that. And in one moment, we'll come back and do the roads. Our next task is to put the roads in. So again, we'll select another layer, and we can use the same. You can draw them freehand. They're going to be shaky with all but the best input devices. Those of you that might have a tablet or drawing pad associated with your computer might have better luck. I tend to stick with the bezier curves and just click through. It's always best to maybe stay off the border because they will connect to each other and you'll form some strange polygons. So we have our road. It's not the roads that are on the farm, of course, but we don't need to follow the rules for this. So again, double click or right click and you have another road. And since we're going to keep all these on the same spot, to add a different road, so we're going to say that around here we actually have another road that direction and another road this direction. So since they're all separate, we want to get our selection tool and we want to grab all of them. So these two are selected because we connected here, but these two don't connect. So we select them both and we use a color appropriate for roads, something that'll stand out, and we need it to be a little thicker. And we can even, well, that's probably good. So now we will deselect everything, and now we see our border with our roads. Color selection is up to you, of course, but try to pick some things that are going to stand out somewhat against the background. So we'll label this roads, hit enter. We will lock this and we will save, and now we will create our north arrow on the screen here. So we're going to try for a polygon with 3 corners with which I believe we want this guy, and we make a little polygon. We got him selected. We want to change some of this. So we've got him transparent. We want to change that. We want him bright. We want to fill, maybe appropriate for a north arrow. Again, I'm not necessarily one to deem what's appropriate. But we will try to get something that stands out. And on this same layer, layer 4, we're going to put in some text. And this is the same way for just about everything to put text in, is to grab the text tool, draw a small box, and type. And so we're just going to put in north. We select this because we want it to be a little bit bigger, maybe bigger than 14. And we want a better color. And again, color selection is all yours. This is just to show you how to do this. So now we know that north is directly up. Take the time to play with that if you feel the need, but it does meet the requirements of knowing direction. And we'll just call this north arrow, and it's locked. Another good time to save, and another pause. Okay, so we left off at the north arrow, and we're going to come back, and we're going to start laying out the fields. One thing to consider as your structures, any other elements that you might want to identify on your farm, like over here on the Eggert farm, we have storage, we have where the tractors and equipment is kept, we have the harvest house, the hoop houses. These are things that you can do once you've seen the tools and how they're used. You can embellish and make this however elaborate you choose to. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to start laying out some fields. For this example, I'm using 4 fields. And the rotation will be 3 crops and a green manure. We're going to start with the year 1 rotation and explain how that's done and how to switch to the year 2 real easily and make a new map without redoing all this work. So right now what we have is our base map. Now what we need to do is we're going to make year 1. So we need to save another copy, save as, and I'm going to go into year 1, and I go, we're going to call this map year 1, and it's a different location, and you'll notice that the file name changes. So we have 2 maps. Now if everything got really messed up or whatever, this base map is now saved right as it is in 2 spots. This current one, we're going to start changing into the year 1. So we pick a layer, and we're going to have a couple regular rectangular fields and a couple odd-shaped fields, kind of like how we did the border and the road. So the odd-shaped fields, we're just going to do the same bezier tool, and we're going to put in a pretty big field here. None of this is realistic for the current operation, but for this it works fine. So we have 1 there. We'll do another one here. Double click and done. So those 2. So we have field 1, field 2. Field 1. 2. And those are our polygon fields, so we'll go ahead and take field 1 here. And we want the stroke, that border, so let's say we want to do all of our borders one standard color. And let's say we're going to get a really kind of a bright purple, lavender, I guess. And we want to give it a decent border. And our fill, what we want to do with our fill is we're going to color code for the crop. And I'm going to sneeze. One sec. Okay, sneeze emergency handled. So back to the fill. One thing about the fill for these is it can be pretty overwhelming, and it can be a nice touch to tone it down with a transparency. And so you can kind of still see the texture below. And so we would say that, you know, you pick a crop to color code for this color yellow. You know, squash, that sounds great. We go to our next field, field 2, and we want a stroke, same thing. We want to get it nice and bright, pretty close. We're going to give ourselves a fill color that's a little more orange. Get down here somewhere. And this might be, you know, melons. You know, pick your own crops. That's up to you. The stroke style, again, to get that border to stand out a little bit, we bump it up. Staying standard is pretty good here. I'm not. This is for you to play with to find the border sizes that you like, and you know, run with that. Experiment a little bit. So those are our two multi-point polygon fields. So now we'll go ahead and do the labels for them. So field 1, we're just going to grab this guy right here, and field 1, and whatever you want to do with the font is fine. That is acceptable. It's readable. It's very clear that it's that field, and you know, the inspector would know by the map when they come in up this road which field is which, and that will correlate to the paperwork they've been given. I won't do all the labels. That's something that is pretty straightforward for everyone to handle. But we will do these rectangular fields, very straightforward. We grab a rectangle tool. We decide where we want a rectangle, and why is it like that? Because the last rectangle we did was the cropping of the picture, and it will remember a lot of the settings as well. So you notice now we have a fill and a stroke that matches our last piece, and so we really just have to pick a new color here, and we're set. So we'll go ahead and we'll put in a name for that as field number 3. And we'll go to our other layer to give our last field over here. And a quick change of the color again gives us 4 fields. Field 4. Now at this point, we're going to save. We have 4 fields identified. Your plan should be able to map out very clearly that in year 1, field 1, 2, 3, and 4 are planted with the crops of your choice. And this is in year 1. So to do year 2, we use the same piece that you've built. All the same layers are still there. We do a file save as. We go into year 2 and we rename it, map year 2. We save, and now what we do is we note the colors that we've chosen, and you just change the color Sometimes it helps if you've picked a strange one. You can round these numbers when you originally set it, but for switching a few of these, we have field 4. We take the numbers down as 130, 26, 181, and the 255 is again the transparency, this alpha channel, red, green, blue, and the alpha channel is very similar to the opacity for all intents and purposes. So we know that number 4 has these values, and then we know that number 1 has 248, 255, 3, and that same 255 that we won't worry about. So we want to switch between the rotation is going to bring 4 over to here, and then we're going to move 1. So we're going to move 1 to here, we're going to move 4 to 1. So we just got to change the color here and easily just highlight, and as we go down the list, it changes to what we want, and 181 gives us a match. And then we save because we're year 2. We go down here to give us our field 1 colors, which is 248, and we can tab down 255. Well, I thought we could tab down 255 and 3. And we end up with field number 1. Let's go back down a little. And then so on and so forth. And so if we forget what color field 2 was prior, you can open the other one. It still have year 1. We open recent year 1, and we get the colors here that we can use. And then put those in, and you have a rotation for the year 2, and then year 3 is the same thing. So here we are at our year 3. This is going to be the same for each graphic that you do. Is you're going to export the file. Now keep in mind, on another layer, you're going to want to create with a text field, and you can fill the box, the background in just like any other box. You're going to want to create some sort of a legend to explain the colors or the symbols, or have some sort of a legend sheet that accompanies this, so it's easy to tell. But doing a little one in the corner here, covering up something with just a rectangle with a solid fill, and you could put text in, copy a couple of these, and you'll have a legend that's really easy to read and easy to navigate. So for every map year 1, map year 2, base map, anything that you want to print or to put on the web, the file needs to be exported. And it's a little bit of a process. So we deselect everything. So we don't have one thing selected. We click off the canvas, and we select File, Export PNG. And what this gives us, it gives us a spot here to kind of tell us where we want it. Well, we want this over where we're working. And this is year 2, right? We see it up here, year 2. And we have farm map, and this is going to be a .png file, and we save it. But it is not saved yet. You've just told the program where you want to put it and what name you want to use. To finally export this as the PNG, we click Export, and a status bar will generate the file. We will double check by looking in our file system, public, for me, farm plan year 2, and now I have a PNG file. And this will come up in a regular image viewer, and you always want to double check in an image viewer how it would look. Just in case some formatting was off, if we may have exported, if you had something selected, like if I had the triangle selected in this window back here when I exported, this is all that would come. You'd have this much canvas because that's the size of the picture, but I would have only had one thing selected. So it's very important, if to double check. It happens to everybody that if you select the wrong thing, the actual picture isn't what you want. So double check with the image viewer, whichever one's standard on your operating system will work. The PNG stands for Portable Network Graphic, which is viewable on just about anything. It's a fairly standard format, so you should be able to see what you've created right away and see if there's any modifications that need to be done. And at this point, you have the tools to now create your own farm plan, hopefully with much better colors and some creativity involved with the legend. That would be up to you, and some of the colors and identifying structures, the text box, most everything in here. Let's close the export real quick and look at this. Most of these things are also, one click gives you a resizing handle, a second click gives you a rotating handle. So if you like the orientation that way better or this way better, you know, that's what those will do. If you want to change the radius, you'll actually need this button to be able to drag the corners. So you'll go back to the rectangle tool. This will let you size it. It doesn't really let you rotate, but you can adjust the radius around the corners on the rectangles. But generally, you know, this is going to be fine. And that's the software, the gist of it. Again, these are the programs that were used. They are all free. The operating system is Linux that I've been using, but all these programs, or at least these two, will run on Mac and Windows. The recorder, all operating systems have some version of a screen recorder should you want to make another video of yourself or by yourself. And that's about it. Enjoy.